All right, guys, welcome to the R&A. This is really exciting. We're getting to chat to Ari about how the competition runs and other competitions, but predominantly beer. We're going to chat beer. I'm going to throw him under the bus with a beer question. We'll see how he goes. Let's get going. Awesome, guys. Well, here we are with Ari. He's what is your role in the R&A competition here?
I'm a councillor on the R&A Council, and that's the body that sort of oversees the governance of the R&A, and most of us are very heavily involved in particular sectional competitions. My job's to help oversee and steer the food, wine, beer, and soon distilled spirits competition.
Excellent.
Here at the R&A.
And do you drink beer?
Oh, Adsy, I do.
Yeah.
I drink beer. It's sort of a coincidental thing, though.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry to you and your audience for having to say that.
We don't have beers this morning because it is like 7:30 in the morning.
I drink beer on the way to drinking some wine, ordinarily.
Yeah.
And perhaps I should admit that's how I got involved. My role here at the R&A came about from stewarding at the Wine Awards.
Yeah, cool.
That we hold each year.
So it's not just you're not just a boss that just organises stuff and points and stuff. You've actually done the stewarding. And,
I've done the stewarding.
Yeah, know how it works. Same as the stewarding and the beer, because it'd be the same across competitions. The stewarding, I imagine, it's just that blind tasting that they have to do, and you've got to organise all the exhibits and get them to the judges so that they don't know what they're doing, which happens in the beer.
The logistics of it themselves are quite fascinating. It's really, at its essence, to facilitate a blind tasting on a pretty large scale.
Yeah.
And so, as you saw with the beer competition, I think we had 48 judges and about the same, a few more stewards running around behind the scenes, organising the beers to be presented blind in front of the judges on the tables. And there's a bit that goes into that. Yeah. And they're all volunteers.
That's it.
The R&A's a great community of volunteers.
So the R&A, it obviously runs a lot of these competitions. How long has the beer competition sort of been going, and what was the impetus for getting the beer competition going?
We've looked back in the records. So the R&A is going to celebrate in 2026 the 150th anniversary of the first Royal Queensland show, the Hiker. And when we look back in the records, we think at about that time there was beer being judged here at the R&A. But it's fair to say over time that fell away, and I suspect it waxed and waned, such that 6-7 years ago there wasn't a beer competition here, and there were a number of people saying to us, why? And that was a pretty good question. So we got together a really great industry group, an advisory group, chief judges like Hendo, Steve Henderson and Chris Sheehan, head steward Jocelyn Erickson, Anthony Clem, Lee McAllister Smiley, a few others, pulled together onto that group and helped us create a new competition effectively. The work was done in 2018, first competition was relaunched competition in 2019, designed by the industry really from the ground up. And the R&A can do that. It doesn't have a vested interest in how those awards and our competitions are run. It wants to support and champion the industry that's represented. And so we've had great help from those people to launch the competition in its current form.
So running the competition, it's not just, it's all well and good for us judges and stewards. We just turn up for a week, taste some beer, talk about it, and then we have a real cool celebration at the awards ceremony itself, and then we all leave with our awards going, that was cool, we'll see you next year. But it's not just that lead up of a couple of weeks beforehand, is it?
So we've got, as I say, we've got that excellent support in terms of making sure we're going in the right direction from the advisory group. And they've already met, we've already met to review this year's show and work out what we want to tweak for next year. So that sort of sets the agenda for the year ahead, and then got a great competitions team here at the RNA, so employees that are just experts, probably usually come out of the events sort of management field, and very quickly learn the RNA overlay and sort of what it is that we're trying to do here in championing agriculture and increasingly these food and beverage products that are so intrinsically linked with agriculture. So they then sort of help us do all of the work behind the scenes to make sure that the word gets out, the entries come in, and the stewarding team's got some beers to start pouring when the judging starts.
Yep. The competition rules and that sort of book, have you taken it from like other competitions that you have and just applied it to the beer one and then worked out all the beer styles, or is there something that's unique in the beer category itself?
So the pleasing thing is, because we're us, we're standalone. We can make that style guide that you're referencing, the particular categories that we judge, we can set those to whatever we want with the advice of our advisory group, and we can change it, and we will. We have changed it annually, we'll change it again. Again, in the debrief, we're talking about sort of particular categories that we might add for next year, where we think they're effectively where beers might be getting lost in sort of bigger categories at the moment. If we can pull them out and shine the spotlight on them in more specific categories, that's what we'll do. And as to the origins of it, there's obviously beer competitions in the modern age that have come before us, so there was inspiration drawn from them as to what they were doing.
Yeah, because one of the good things is like the ABAs, the Melbourne International show that's on, beer show, your comp always runs with enough time that we get our feedback back before we enter that show, so we can look and see, okay, here's where these beers did well, what have we got in the production schedule coming up, can we get them in on time and brew them, make them better, or this is perfect, but it'll start aging, like all of these little things. Was that intentional, or that's just...
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. You'll imagine the wine guys don't have quite the same luxury of going and getting to do vintage again in time for the next wine.
It doesn't sort of work like that.
But that was something we did with wine, even to give, to be the first in a calendar year of the capital city shows. It gives exhibitors the chance to get that feedback and effectively work out what they want to submit to other shows as the calendar progresses. So beer's that. But with the additional benefit of you being able to go and work on your recipes and get another brew. Yeah,
that's the good thing about beer. You can turn it around in 4 weeks, sometimes 3 at a push. So that feedback is really good. Do you find that as it's growing, that growth brings additional challenges, like for space that you need, or just logistics that you need? Obviously, you guys don't always have 50 fridges lined up with shipping containers that are chilled, and
there's of course there'd come a point where you probably had too many, but I don't think we're near that. The greatest constraint's really the time that we're asking volunteers to contribute to our show. The reality is, as you know, having judged here this year, looking at sort of 60 odd beers in a day is about the limit of human capacity.
Everyone thinks it's a dream day, but they don't. And it is a good day. You do tell them that you've got to
write notes about each one, don't
you? And not every beer is great, so you got
to... and talk amongst your peers, about why you think a beer's good.
That's it.
And that'd be embarrassing if you got it too wrong, I imagine. I imagine. So I imagine you're on your toes. But that's the constraint. So if we had twice the number of beers being entered, then we'd either need twice the number of people or
a longer period,
twice as long. And both have got their problems. Taking people away, if you were to run the show over more days, taking people away from their businesses, given how small some of these businesses are. You'd lose them. So we're conscious of all of that. We've been running at about sort of 20% year-on-year increase in entries since this was relaunched in 2019, as I said, and we've been able to accommodate that just by sort of incremental growth in people. And yeah, hiring another fridge, that's okay.
Yeah, nice. The stewarding side, how do you plan logistically for what sort of equipment you're going to need? Because how many glasses do you need? You need, like, that mathematics quickly ramps up. Are you constantly stock taking what you have and rebuying?
Well, to give you an example, for both wine and beer, we were at the point where the glass washing wasn't keeping up. So we went from 1 glass washing machine to 2 this year. Just removes that bottleneck. So it's a bit like that. It's a bit like you see in 1 year where the pressure points are and you do your best to scale those up. I imagine that's a bit like what happens in breweries.
That's pretty much, what's the problem? How do we fix it? Right, let's move forward. Speaking of the awards, so the award show was really excellent. Is that a really good culmination? Like when you see that many people that passionate about their beers and coming along and to support their peers as well, because it's always great when you see your mates getting up there and winning. Like I was standing next to Phil and Dan from Hiker when they won their first trophy, and then they got another one. Phil hasn't shut up about him. Every time you go and chat to him, is that like, because you don't get up and get a reward? Like don't
worry about that.
You get a nice,
It's okay, I got a beer, I told you that.
Right,
No.
But what sort of, after that's done, like, do you just go back to a normal day, or are you still a bit high on some adrenaline? Or
it's a bit like that. So R&A counsellors, it's a volunteer position, honorary position, and so I go back to my day job, which is as a lawyer. And try to catch up on the week that's been where I've been in another world almost. But the awards, going back to the awards, they're terrifically well supported by exhibitors, by the judges coming back for another day to mingle with the exhibitors and celebrate the achievements that have come through the show. That's one of the reasons why we do it, because that is so well supported by the industry. It makes it feel worthwhile, and we'll continue. Like, we'll take all the advice in the world from anyone who wants to offer it to us as to how we can continue to improve that. The advisory group's got some thoughts on how we can make it bigger and better for next year.
Is there a dinner in there?
It's very.
I bet you that's been banded around.
We'd be silly if we didn't consider it, wouldn't we? And I should also comment on Phil too, because having spoken about how these awards were re-enlivened in 2019, at that stage Phil worked here at the R&A. Phil Sharp, and he was pretty instrumental in that. I should have acknowledged that. So he's rightfully chuffed for, I don't know, you might say
full circle, isn't it?
If you could call it that.
It's taken him 5 years, but
he's back here picking up awards for his efforts.
What other awards are as exciting as beer? Like, do the industries come together as much as beer, or is beer pretty unique in that we're all sort of mates and we all know each other and we all sort of chat and catch up?
Beer shines in that regard. You know, I think it's a bit of a standout in terms of how collaborative and how much of the Queensland industry gets behind these awards. I think it's part of the design of it. You know, if it's industry led, then the industry should support it logically.
How far out do you project, like, awards details? Like, is it just year on year, or have you got like plans to go, come 2027 we'd like to implement this sort of program? Or
so as a broad umbrella, the Royal Queensland Awards that the beer awards sit under, and the wine awards sit under, and the branded beef and lamb that we do here, that's sort of got a multi-year strategy, sort of 5+ year strategy, and that's what we've been doing, for instance, this year in adding the distilled spirits competition and also an aquaculture competition that we judge the week after beer. And the thought there is, the better known that brand is, the better we can help exhibitors boast about and communicate with consumers about, or even trade, anyone who buys their beer, about their results. If it's a recognised brand out there across a series of food and beverage products, then we hope that fulfils our charter to do the right thing by the exhibitors, help them promote what they're doing.
The R&A is also very famous for hosting the ECA. Is that where any exhibits are actually shown, like beer exhibits?
So there's a good connection between our beer awards and Craft Beer Alley in the Woolworths Pavilion here during ECA. Again, we're sort of focused on sort of building the representation of the Royal Queensland Award food and beverage competitions in that pavilion. 400,000+ visitors come through the gates for ECA, so it's pretty
it's a
good exposure.
busy 10 days.
But perhaps even more relevantly, getting winning beers on the compendiums here for our events business. As you saw when we came in, this venue is used year round for events. We take the results, and the food and beverage team here pulls from those, in this case beer, but also wines and other produce that gets featured on that compendium year in, year out. We partner with organisations like the Star Entertainment Group with particular awards that means winning beers end up on their lists. All what we're trying to do to make sure that we deliver as much value to exhibitors for entering.
All right, Harry. Well, mate, thanks heaps for sitting down and chatting with me today. I actually didn't realise how much went on in the background and how much beer is important to the R&A. Like, I know it is, but it's a lot more understanding has gone into it, and to running a competition and why to get involved. Like, as a business, we always enter, but it's always good to see more people enter because, as you said, that competition, putting yourself up against other people. And finding out how your beers go is excellent.
No, look, thanks very much for the opportunity to talk about what we do here at the R&A and the Royal Queensland Awards. And thanks particularly for the effort that you put into it as a steward for a number of years and most recently as a judge.
I'm still wearing my shirt.
Well done. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.